What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Nightmares Podcast, where we talk about all things horror, and we are now exclusively interviewing people from the horror community. It's just a lot more fun, where we talk about anything, movies, music, and in this case, podcasting. This is the second group of podcasters that we've had on, and I think this is going to be a nice running tradition to talk to other podcasters because it's kind of fun. We can talk shop, we can talk about the similar experiences, to say the least.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, that too. And my partner in crime is Zachary Smith is here. So today we have the Dolls of Horror podcast. If you would be so kind to introduce yourself, that'd be awesome.
Hi, my name is Summer. I founded the Dolls of Horror in November 2019 with my original co-host Tori, and then Jamie joined the family.
Yeah, so me and Summer actually met via Instagram too, which was kind of fun, starting a podcast with someone who lives all the way across the other side of the country. She was drawn to a little post that I did on my Instagram about how I love neon colored blood and some eyeball torture. But yeah, I came on as a guest originally, and then she invited me to be the host, and I said, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So a lot of conversations about zombie, I'm sure.
My fave.
Frame by frame discussions, I'm sure. And Zach's eyes certainly perked up when he heard neon blood or anything blood.
You say blood, I get excited. It's just don't worry. I'm not insane, I swear.
I understand.
And funny enough, and actually, it's funny that you met over Instagram. Zach and I actually met because I auditioned for one of his films, doing his last project for college, and I auditioned for him. And then we became.
He was horrible.
Therefore he casted me. I was the only guy that showed up that day, so he's like, I guess we're gonna have to go with this guy. And Zach likes to tell a joke about that audition that I always love. What's that joke, Zach?
It's literally the only time he's been on time to anything, early even.
I fucked up his expectations for the next 8 years. So we have a very popular question here on the Nightmares podcast. Is what we ask to every guest, and it kind of devolves into a whole conversation. So when did horror enter your life? You're more than welcome either one to answer, but when did that journey, that bloody journey, or in this case, neon bloody journey, start for you?
Ooh, well, it's funny because my bloody journey, so I started off with the little gateway horrors when I was a kid, right? So Gremlins.
You make us sound like crack addicts.
We are. You are.
Yes.
I started with the gateway drugs.
Began.
Hey, you still go broke.
It's true. But so I started watching some of those things. I really loved book series at the time, like Goosebumps, and I loved the Christopher Pike stuff. But I didn't fully go full-blown horror freak until I was in high school. And gosh, I don't even know what necessarily started it, except that when I was a kid and I was scared of these movies, I also kind of liked it. So then in high school, I just started running through them nonstop, and I have been a total horror fan ever since.
Yeah. For me, I was 8 years old, thereabouts. And I spent a lot of time at my grandmother's house because she had a house full of foster kids and I was an only child. So I would go there every weekend, sometimes during the weekdays, and hang out with all my friends, all the kids. And she had kids of all ages, people younger than me and high schoolers. And one of the ones that she had for many, many years, I call her my Aunt Deanna, and I still just adore her. She would go and she would rent scary movies, and she rented Suspiria one day. And it was the first time I was allowed to watch a movie, and just staying up late in her bunk bed, watching the ballet and the witches, and my life changed forever. And I remember running home and telling my parents I just saw my first horror movie. And they're like, wait, what? They were strangely relieved to find out I meant, violence and not sex.
Oh.
You know
But
what? We by the way, we have to get real hooked on phonics when we tell the title of our network. We have to literally go Midwest Horror
Horror.
Network because a lot of people are like horror network. I'm like, no,
I'm
that's a different thing. We tried to go for that copyright. It's already gone. Because if horror does it second, porn does it first. Anyway, back to this conversation.
Yeah, but after that, that's all I wanted to watch. It was all horror all the time. And yeah, I think my second horror movie might have been Retribution. Not a good movie at all. Very special to me, though. And after that, I can't remember what I saw when. I can't remember which nightmare I saw first, which Friday I saw first, because I was watching so many sometimes in the same day. It just all blends together. And I really wish that I had those memories of seeing Halloween for the first time, and I wish I could go back and like say, you're going to want to know this later.
I was studious about it when I first started in like high school, like really going through them. I was like researching and I was like, okay, I got to watch them all in order. I need to watch This Is an Essential. This is an essential. Giallos are like one of my favorite kind of subgenres. So I really went on a Giallo binge first, but I was studious about it.
Man. And I this was back for me in 1990. So there was like no internet search, no streaming. I know I dated myself terribly, but those were back in the days when you went to the video store and you found a cover you liked. And that's what you watched. So I saw a Nightmare on Elm Street cover I liked. I'm pretty sure it was either 3 or 4. So that's the one I picked. And not really knowing all the backstory, but didn't even care because I loved the characters so much.
Yeah, it's amazing that I've had many stories where Vinny, one of my dear friends, who's actually my roommate, was talking to me about renting a few movies, and it was a Krampus movie, and the artwork was so cool on the cover that they actually bought it, and it was a buddy of his, and he said, "Hey, this is really cool. I'm gonna buy it. Let's go back to my place and watch it." And they watched it, and it was so bad. The friend just apologized the entire time. He's like, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry, man. I'm so it's so bad." And then of course, our dear friend Corey Poltergeist OD, he's the reason why dudes like him are the reason why at Blockbuster that they started putting the VHSs in the back, because what he used to do was because Jack Frost the horror movie and Jack Frost the family movie came at the same time. He used to switch the VHSs all the time. And I'm like, you're the reason why we had to go, basically pass bulletproof glass to go get our fucking VHS. You're the asshole, sir. You're the reason why this whole system got fucked. Because you scared the shit out of some family members that are watching a really bad horror movie. They have not had the displeasure of seeing it yet, but I've heard terrible things.
It's awful.
I know you and Vinny are the only ones who've seen it.
What, Jack Frost?
Yeah.
Jack Frost?
I love Jack Frost. But in the ironic, this is so strange and so great and so wonky in that kind of way. It's not a fantastic film, but I adore it.
I like to say it has the most misleading cover I've ever seen. It's just like, oh, that looks cool, and it looks nothing like that in the movie. I'm like, what the hell?
No.
I got ripped off. I was like 7 years old. I'm like, this is bullshit.
Zach started his horror journey when he was like 2, so he started very early with his adventures. So I'm curious too. You brought up an interesting topic, and I kind of want to expand upon it, which was talking about artwork on VHSs and everything else. It's crazy how it kind of made a huge shift in the 90s, when it became very, and don't get me wrong, I love Scream, but Scream changed a lot of marketing for horror movies into that what's now modern horror, movie posters, which is a bunch of sexy people looking directly at the camera, opposed to very beautiful artwork. Don't get me wrong, I like those sexy people, but but it gets a little, don't we all? But it gets a little, much. I'd love to expand upon this, what it was like to actually go through a Blockbuster and look at all these beautiful artwork, and it was an adventure. It was an adventure to try to see it, and it's sorely missed.
It
I miss
really
it so
is.
much. Yeah, I really loved like the thrill of the hunt too, because there'd be movies that like I heard about from friends or whatever, and they were hard to find. So I'd go to like the used like video store or like a thrift store and search and search and search. And if I actually found it, it was like such a prize, you know what I mean? But man, like being a kid going through the video store, that was just the greatest feeling, especially, when mom's like, grab a couple, like you can grab two, and it's like they're both going to be horror.
Of course. Of course. It was very, very magical. And you're right about the shift on the kind of cover art that there was. And I discovered some really amazing little known movies based on, blind pickups from, in my case, before Blockbuster was super popular and before Hollywood Video was super popular, we had Video City, which was like I'm from California. So that was a California chain. They were kind of everywhere there. So we went to the Video City, and eventually that one folded because of Blockbuster and Hollywood got so big. And now we all know what happened to those. But I mean, we've talked about one of these movies on the show, Jamie. Madman was the one I picked based on the cover, and it's now one of my favorite movies. I don't know if you fellows have
Me
seen
too.
it.
No, I've not. I'll add it to the list.
Oh, please
It's so
do.
good. And check out the cover art. It's beautiful.
Stunning. Original cover art. Google the
Yeah.
original cover art because they've changed it. And the new stuff is great, but it's not my nostalgia. Also, Popcorn was one of those that I picked based on the
Aw.
cover alone.
Yep. So
Yep.
fun movie.
So good.
So good. And I was thinking about what you guys said about the bad movies and the bad Krampus movies, because there's a lot of Krampus crap out there. I know I own several in my big box of Christmas movies, and I have one, trust me. So one that I really remember watching based on the cover, and I remember it being just awful and making no sense. It was called The Demons of Ludlow.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Very obscure. And I think I'm going to have to try to find it to see if it really is as bad as I remember, because there was a lot of wonky things going on, and it was like a ghost story, and there was, I think, a pirate at some point. I mean,
And the porn version is the Demons of Santa Monica. So no, I love that little gems and everything else. It's so great.
man,
Yeah.
I want to watch it again, 28 years later, and see if it really is as bad as I remember it being.
Hey, you need the buddy system for that one, so count me in.
I do. And my best friend at the time, the person who I spent, most of my adolescent and adult life, we became roommates when we all moved out everything. She watched it with me, and I remember, because that's what we do every weekend, and go watch the scary movies and have a sleepover. And she goes, "This is okay." I think that was her exact reaction. Okay.
This was a movie.
We're like, well, that just happened.
We've watched several of movies that would happen. What was the one that was made from the guy from the Misfits? You know what I'm talking about?
The Glenn Danzig
movie.
movie.
The Glenn Danzig movie. That was one of those that we watched, and we're like, well, that was a thing. We saw something. I don't know. Like, we saw pictures and light and sound. So it must have been a film, but we were not quite sure what the fuck was that.
Story be damned. There was visuals. There was there was blood in one of the stories. There was a naked chick, and that's all I remember.
And I think it was.
Well,
there was
of course, the naked chick.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a testament of horror. There's just certain things, certain boxes you have to fill. The one thing I will say is, though, I think that's making a kind of a cool comeback, is Shudder is starting to reintroduce the culture of the video store, except it's doing it through digital form. And I'll explain. Because when you just, because Shudder has just mountains of horror and indie horror and other horror that you never even heard of. And a lot of it is, you look at the cover art, the actual cover art, and then you can decide. You have the description next to it, but most people are looking at the cover art. So it is into a sense of reintroducing that culture. It's not the same, but from a digital era perspective, it's the best we got. And I think they're at least making an attempt to get back to that whole era. Because I have found a lot of really cool gems on Shudder that I would have normally not have found. So I do appreciate that.
And were you guys talking about Veronica?
Yes,
Because,
That's it.
Guys, I had to look it up, but I've heard 3 people say that exact same description about that movie. 3 other people separately on separate occasions say the same thing. And I'm like, wait, okay, what was it? I started with a V. There was a K in it. What was it? So yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not the only one to feel exactly that way.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I have a story. Hold on just a second. And Zach's going to laugh when he hears what the story is. We had a white elephant party that we had.
Jesus.
We had a white elephant party.
No, it was a bloody elephant.
A bloody
Get it
elephant.
right.
Bloody elephant, white elephant. We went into the theme. And, obviously both of you have been to the cons many, many times. And you have a lot of the resellers that are there. And what I did was I literally went like this. And like grabbed some random shit from the box.
Oh, I love it.
And the one I pulled out was called Teacher's Pet. And we grabbed it and we gave
My
it to
husband watched that on Tubi.
Oh my god!
Oh.
I did it.
That sounds familiar. I haven't seen it, but I think I've seen the cover on
Mark?
TV.
He was telling me all about it.
Wait. Real quick, Mark,
Oh.
are you sure it's called Teacher's Pet? Are you sure it's not Teacher's Day?
Oh, Teacher's Day, not
Okay, he saw Teacher's Pet.
Oh, okay.
Let him describe the movie, and we'll see if we have the right
We'll see if we
movie.
match it up because I know it has like
Okay.
several titles. So essentially, it's a very like formulaic, slasher movie. It's literally like the plot of a porno, except no sex and PG-13 nudity happens in a rated R movie. It's a bunch of girls at a slumber party while there's a dude stalking out them, but a teacher. But at the same time, there's another bro dude that keeps trying to get into the party with a bunch of his friends, and a bunch of his buddies look into a window to very PG-13 activity that's going on, and they jerk off, and then they get killed by the teacher. And then it all culminates. By the way, and like you at least think that like nudity is going to be the saving grace of this. They barely do any nudity. And then it gets to the ending, and the bro dude, who apparently was the writer and the director, burst into a rap song about a banana. And apparently this was a catalyst for him to start his rap career about rapping about fruit. And in this case, it was about a banana.
Not the same movie.
That's what I figured. I'm like, there's no way in hell anyone else has seen this movie because we can't find it anywhere else.
I couldn't believe we couldn't believe what the fuck was going on. There
wasn't even any blood in the damn movie.
Yeah, there wasn't any blood either, but somehow it was rated R. I think it was rated R for language.
Right.
For the banana.
And the banana, apparently whatever the fuck that means. It was the craziest thing. And also, too, is you have all the ladies at the party left us, and they all went into the kitchen, and you got a bunch of guys literally making our commentary was second to none because it was the stupidest thing we've ever seen, and they're all horror fans, so you can hear just rolls of laughter and all of us just shouting at the screen. Like, what the fuck is going on? I actually talked to my now fiance, and she's like, "Could you hear us?" And she's like, Yeah, I could hear you. I know, I know what the movie's about, and I didn't even watch it. It was the weirdest fucking thing. But I will say this: at least I remember it. I do remember that it did happen. So I'm sure you've had many experiences of watching bad movies that you go, well, that was a thing.
Well, that's the fun of a blind pick, you know? You don't really know what you're going to get. It's kind of fun when things go sideways and weird. So I'll sit through the whole thing usually.
Usually.
I think there was only once or twice where I couldn't and turned it off.
Same.
What, Jamie, what was the movie that we watched where we both considered not finishing it and just winging our homework and trying to like play it off like we saw it? What was that? It was recent.
And I totally had enough that I could have totally done it. I
did not have enough. I was like, but I really didn't want to finish. What was it? Do you remember?
Killing 3.
Oh, Thanksgiving Part 3.
Oh, that movie gives me a fucking headache. The
What?
I despise that series.
Didn't they like skip Thanksgiving too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I got that right.
I absolutely despise that movie. I'm like very like venomally against that movie. I fucking can't stand it. I hate it.
I was okay with Part 1 for what it was. I'll watch
Same.
Part 1 again, but going into Part 3, it was tough. It was way too long. Like it might be like 45 minutes in. I'm like, well, how much longer? I'm like, an hour? There's an hour left? Are you fucking kidding me?
I seriously was like, I'm just going to turn it off now and I'm just going to wing it through the podcast. I'm just going to wing it.
And that was the first time, at least for me, that I ever even considered actually not finishing the movie and saying I did, ever.
Same.
There's a couple movies that that are actually, a lot of them are very popular, and I was so bored. The Howling, I was bored.
Really?
Yeah, I was bored. I was bored. I'm like, and also too is I was very disappointed of a transformation, and then literally he just slaps her, and I'm like, really? That's what we're doing? And I think it's just because I love American Werewolf in London so much that this just paled in comparison. And I'm like what the fuck is this? This is just weird. The one that I can't remember. I think it was an Italian one. It's like the haunted house on. It's not Haunting of Hill House or anything like that, or House on Haunted Hill. It's something to do with a house. It's not House on the Left, but it's a foreign film. I think it's Italian. It's like The House on the Hill, or something like that. We did a podcast on foreign films, and I can't remember the title. I wish my roommate was here because he would know it right away. But like that's another one that I just could not. I was looking at my clock every
Mark,
second.
you really can't remember an Italian horror movie?
I do. Yeah, I know.
Your
dude.
dad is going to be very upset.
I know.
With you.
I'm Italiano. And most of the time, we're really good at cooking loud volume control issues and Italian horror movies. Like we're good at those three things. They can't make a car to save our life, but that's neither here nor there. I couldn't sit there. It was so boring. What were a few horror movies that you've watched over the years that you just were like, it's what the fuck? It's so boring.
Everything.
I have
Go.
Oh, go.
Suspiria remake.
Ooh.
I did not like the Suspiria remake either.
I finished it, but again, way too long. I love an 80-minute runtime, y'all. And when something is 2+ hours and it's not entertaining, I was like, is this over yet? I think I spent the last half on my phone, honestly.
Ooh,
that's doing the Facebook thing and looking up every now and then. Nope, still not interested. So that's one that over the last couple of years where I was just like, that people actually really liked, some people, and I was just like, are you kidding me? No.
I feel like I had that kind of recently. Has any of you seen Barbarian?
Not yet.
Everybody has been telling me to watch it, and there was so much hype built up for it that I'm just like, I need to wait, let it die down, and watch it with a nice, clear mindset, because otherwise, those expectations are going to ruin it for me. I've let that happen way too many times.
I've done that too, and I don't know, I almost feel like maybe I'm broken or something because I didn't like it, and I feel like everybody has liked this movie so much, and I wanted to. It's not like I didn't want to. Right. So I'm like, am I broken? I'm like, I just wasn't feeling it, and I got so much hype.
One of my coworkers who loves horror actually said the same thing.
That she felt broken?
Yeah, that too. Well, we feel that every day at that job. I'm just saying. But she loves horror and everyone's loving it. Even other coworkers in the office were loving it, and she's like, really?
Zach and I can speak to this. Most A24 horror, we feel broken.
All A24.
Okay, I defend some A24 movies. Most of them could have been released by anybody, like Ex Machina, and they would have been great no matter what. I really loved Uncut Gems, but when it comes to pretty much all of A24 horror movie, I have not seen one that I have liked. I know this is a very controversial topic among horror fans. We've gotten into arguments even with friends, and I think that I pretty much follow Zach's lead on this, which is nothing happens in them. Like it's too, I guess it's too artsy fartsy for me. That's the best way I can describe it. And trust me, I love some beautiful horror movies. There's some great and beautiful. I mean, I love Giallo, which is very artistic and beautiful, and I love a lot of stuff Guillermo del Toro has done, and that's very artistic and beautiful. And my favorite horror movie, I think, is very artistic, even though it's balls to the wall, which is Reanimator. I think that movie is beautifully twisted in a lot of ways. That's also because it's H.P. Lovecraft. But yeah, it's just there's something that it's like watching somebody try too hard. And I think they try too hard to be metaphorical, and to the point where, like, I miss the metaphor.
Yeah. There's this whole movement of elevated horror, they like to call it. And yeah, I feel like that can be the pitfall of a lot of them, where I'm like, I like my bloody, like, 80s, 90s, like, slashers. And that's not to say I don't like beautiful, like, cinematic horror movies. I do. There are some lovely ones out there. But again, I'd rather, like, stick with, like, 70s, 80s giallos for, like, my beautiful artsy, like, horror movies.
I'm over here like, fuck artsy, give me the blood and the machetes. But can I ask you guys a question that's going to maybe possibly make me lose my horror card?
Never. You're a guest.
Ask anything you want.
And also, we've
What's
already
A24?
Ooh.
I have not heard this phrase, and I feel like an idiot because you guys know, and I'm like, I am so out of the loop.
Ladies, buckle in, because Zach's about to go on his A24 rant. So by the way, he normally, because you requested, just so you know, he's not allowed to bitch about A24 during normal business hours. We put this in a contract. That in his employment contract, he's not allowed to talk about this because it got so excessive that in this case, I'm going to make an exception because a guest asked. So, Zach, Zachary Smith, Zach. You may proceed.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Have you ever heard of a movie called A Ghost Story? It Comes in Night, Hereditary, Midsommar.
I didn't like them.
Good. That's A24. Artsy fartsy, pretentious garbage bullshit. No story. There's a beginning, there might be a middle, but there's never an ending. It's this open-ended, just like, ooh, what does this mean? What's this? What's that? Nothing! It is literally nothing! It is all bullshit! The only people that generally like these movies, at least in my experience, are people who don't have their own opinions. Oh, I like it because somebody told me to like it. What was the story? I used to work in a movie theater. They'd be like, oh my God, that was so great. What was the story? What'd you like about it? Shut up and get out of my theater!
I'm like the decapitation.
Oh, well, I guess in Hereditary that kid did get it. That was kind of funny. But still, besides that. Oh, God. Okay, so A Ghost Story is probably my most hated film of all time because it's literally just 2 hours of somebody standing with a bedsheet over them and literally nothing happens. There's literally a 4-minute, 28-second shot of a camera just put down, and Rooney Mara, one of the most boring actresses I've ever seen in my life, could defeat Freddy Krueger no problem like she did in the remake because she has no fucking emotion. It's literally 4 minutes and 28 seconds. I timed this in the theater of her just eating a pie, I'm literally sitting here just like, is this shot ever gonna end? We're still going. Me and my buddy David and Marcus, I'm just like, What the shot is still going. Wait, how long have we been? I don't know. What is happening? I since we worked in the theater, we weren't allowed to buy liquor because one manager like fucked it for the rest of us, got wasted. So I gave my credit card to my buddy David. I'm just like, get me whiskey right now. He thought I was joking. I wasn't. He would not get me whiskey. I had to sit through this sober. I'm like, oh my God, when will this end? Wait, is this scene repeating? What? Oh my!
Spoken like a filmmaker, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Another trope of A24 is whoever scores their movies, like I'm sure it's in their contract somewhere, we have to let this shot play out so my song could go to its full entirety. Like in The Witch, literally the first 10 minutes of the film, there's just a shot of this carriage going and the song playing as the camera rises for like 3 fucking minutes. That was my first or second A24. The funny thing is, my first A24 movie was Ex Machina, so I thought, oh, these movies must actually be good. But after that, it was a downhill spiral of pure hatred.
Yeah.
It comes at night, a movie about a red door that somebody opens and everybody loses their mind. Nothing else
Would It
happens.
Follows be considered A24?
It Follows.
No.
Okay.
It Follows is not A24. That movie I actually didn't mind. I thought demonic STDs was at least an interesting concept.
Basically what it is.
Yeah. What's it called? Hereditary, Midsummer, Ghost Story.
No, I love how you pronounce Midsummer.
I fucking hate that movie.
Midsummer.
8th Grade. Anything that just seems pretentious bullshit that everybody just loves out of nowhere but can't explain it to you, just assume that's A24. Lady Bird, what the fuck else is there?
If Oscar Bait was a studio.
Yes. And not in a good way.
Yeah, like the bad Oscar Bait. Like, it's...
Okay.
So I got to cut him off there because he'll go on for an hour.
He'll keep going.
He'll keep going.
I am so
Thank you
sorry
for clarifying, gentlemen.
Anytime.
It's good that you don't know.
You are missing nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Well, I saw Hereditary in the theater with my friend. By the way, this is another funny story, if I may.
Please.
My friend hates horror movies. He doesn't even like the word. He doesn't like being scared. He doesn't like gore. He doesn't like anything. But he agreed for some reason to go to see Hereditary with me, and I was so excited. I'm like, I'm getting Christopher to go see a horror movie with me. I'm so happy. And he's like, yeah, I'll watch anything that Toni Collette's in. So I'm like, cool, we're on. So we went to the theater. I'm looking over at him. He's fine. I'm like, okay, he's fine. He's good. I was bored the whole time. And so we left. He's like, that was kind of boring. So even the biggest horror was, sorry, Chris, even the biggest horror was out there found it boring as fuck.
Which
that makes me happy.
It makes me happy too. And then opposed to like other really great audience situations that we've had, like going to see Society at the Music Box.
I would love to see that on the big screen.
And we met and we got to meet Brian Usna. And he's so fucking normal. It freaked me the fuck out.
Right?
He's like a soccer dad. I'm like, and I literally walked up to him and we all took a picture with him, and we shook his hand and I'm like, hey, Brian, thank you. You were awesome. We love the movie, and I told him a little bit about our whole history with it, and he was like, oh my God, thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy that you enjoyed it, and I'm like, could you be like a little weird, like just a little bit, like
a little?
Yeah, between Society and the dentist, you think there'd be something wrong?
And then we had Nick Benson, who did a lot of the effects.
Yeah.
And Nick's awesome. We had him on the podcast, and he was talking. He's like, oh, dude, Brian's fucking awesome. Like, he's such a good guy. And he's like, it was like it's weird to like see like Screaming Man George and him work together, because Screaming Man George's like personality is very like A-type and kind of like really aggressive and out there, and like and Brian's just such a easygoing, like nice guy. So, and he's like, it was really interesting to watch them kind of work together. But I kind of wanted him to be just a little weird. That was it. But no, he was like the nicest, normalest guy that you would see running a fucking PTA meeting. Like I'm just like, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you know, and which is great because I've heard that about Wes Craven, that he's very nice and sweet, you know, or was very nice and sweet. You know, so it's not all that unsurprising. I mean, you know, we make horror films. We're not, you know, I'm at least not as crazy. You know, Zach's a little, you know,
Questionable.
Questionable is a good word.
We like that.
But by the way, when in the theater though, we play our favorite game to play in society though is to guess who's the bringer and who's the brought. Because I'm like, who's the fucked up person that brought their friend to see some crazy shit, and I've seen the holy fuck scene so many times that like I can look around. That's what I call it, by the way. The ending is the holy fuck scene.
Good pun.
Yes.
Because I'm like, and poor Nick still has nightmares about KY jelly when he passes it in Walgreens. So like I think he passes out a little bit. But like we're like I wonder who brought that. Our buddy Vinny started that. He leaned over. He's like I wonder who brought who. Because it's like a lot of normal people in the audience. I'm like, I love that. Or better yet, who just wandered in from the street and is about to get a whole lot of surprises in about 20 minutes. So obviously I got a reaction, so I want to hear you know, your experience, because you all went, oh, society, oh my god. So I got to hear some of your stuff.
So we actually did cover Society on our podcast within the last year.
Nice.
And we did tell our Society origin story. So Jamie, I'll let you go first since you saw it before I did.
Oh, yeah, like Society was introduced to me by a friend, and it was really, I love, like I said, I love when shit gets weird and like sideways. So
it gets weird.
It does. But you know, I haven't had the treat of like getting to watch it with somebody who has never seen it before. And it's kind of like my dream. I'm like, I need to introduce somebody to Society and have them sitting right next to me so I can just watch them the whole time. I just haven't picked my victim yet.
And I watched it as a blind watch. It was one of those movies that, based on the cover, I always thought I'd seen before. Always. For 20 years, thought I'd seen it before. And it was on Tubi. I saw the cover. I said, cool, you know, I haven't seen this one for a long time. I'll watch it again. And the further on I got into the movie, the more it became clear I've never seen this movie before.
Surprise.
And you know, it was really funny because I'm watching it. My husband walks in on random moments, always the moments that he should probably not be walking in on, you know, throughout the movie. He's like, what the fuck are you watching? I said, I don't know. I have no idea. But so I finished it and I'm like, okay, well, that just happened, like we talked about. And I said to myself, and I think I said it out loud to him, this might be the only movie ever that might affect my dreams. Not give me nightmares necessarily, but weed their way in some way, you know? It didn't when I went to sleep, but I thought that. I said, this might actually affect my sleep in some way, shape, or form, good or bad, I'm not sure. And I sat with it in my brain for about a month, and I said, you know, I think I want to watch it again.
I think I want to do that again. So I actually watched the holy fuck scene first because we were doing I walked in on it and I felt like I was walking into porn.
Like my husband did. He's like, what? Huh?
What the fuck's going on?
He's seen me watch some really fucked up shit, but that was a new one for him.
I believe it. So I literally, because we were doing a podcast on body horrors, our second podcast. I think I went on at least a solid 10-minute rant about the holy fuck scene. And I just I just need to like express all the emotions. I'm like, enough KY jelly to slick back Danny Zuko's hair from fucking Grease. I was waiting for them to bust into bamboo. And then
well, you know, guys, a hickey from Kaniki is like a Hallmark card.
Yeah, it is. It is sending them their very best. I grew up with musical theater. I know all the words.
Guys, you don't even know if Jamie and I are both huge musical theater nerds. I have the words Summer Lovin' tattooed on my back.
Nice.
I'm not even kidding.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and so anytime we can go and talk about musical theater at any moment, we do it.
All right.
We take the opportunity.
I am going to. I'm going to let Zach tell a story in a second, but I want to do a story first. is I want to hear Wes's experience of watching it, and then we'll talk about your musical theater experience in just a second.
Okay.
The
So the first time I watched Society, it was with my buddy Brandon and my buddy Wes. So me and my buddy Wes, we hadn't seen the movie yet. You know, we were coming over. I think it was like a New Year's Eve party, and we're just like, all right, let's hang out and just watch movies and play games all night or whatever. So we come over and he picks out the movie and he just shows us the cover Society. I'm like, oh well, this looks interesting. So, and my buddy Wes is just like, it's a horror movie. Yeah, okay, whatever. So we sit down and we start watching it. And then I noticed my buddy Brandon's like filming us and he's posting on Facebook like they have no fucking idea. I'm like, all right, well, this is going to be interesting. And like the first 15 minutes of the movie, the sister's giving the brother the eyes and my buddy Wes out of nowhere is just like, she's giving him the fuck me eyes. and it's just like, is this like an incest movie? I'm sitting here watching like, I don't know. No, let's find out. My buddy Brandon's just like, Wes, you're insane. Just keep watching. Like, you'll see what happens. And this whole movie, like, is the family trying to fuck him? What is happening? And he's freaking out the entire movie. Like, what is this? What is this? And then it finally gets to, as Mark calls it, the holy fuck scene. And he just starts going, what the fuck is this? Why is that guy's head coming in out of his asshole? How do you get the legs like that? What? Oh my god! Why? And it's just like 15 minutes of him screaming. I'm watching this going like, well, this is something. And just we're both laughing hysterically at like the horror that he's experiencing. Watching like really fucked up horror shit with him is great because he just freaks out. It is adorable.
It's amazing that society can take real true horror fans and even make them take a step back and go, what the fuck was that?
It's a beautiful thing.
So great.
Okay.
So I actually don't have a musical story. I wanted to know if you have seen the Evil Dead musical.
That's the thing I was going to bring up.
Not yet, but I want
Not
to.
yet. I know some of the songs, and I performed one of the songs in a musical theater performance, a Halloween show we did, which was Do the Necronomicon, and I want to see it so bad.
Okay.
Nice.
My favorite song from that musical is What the Fuck Was That? But if you ever get the chance, like if they're ever showing it, get the Splatter Zone seats. It's so bad. Yeah, they will do whatever they can to spill as much blood on you as possible. It is so much fun. Fully recommend it. Great music, great performances, and it's a lot of blood in a play, and it gets on you. So get it. Do it.
I have two performance regrets. And that is one of them. Because I had the opportunity.
We invited you.
I was invited, and for whatever reason I didn't go, and I was pissed. And the other one was going to see Slayer at their final performance at Riot Fest.
Once again, you were invited.
I was, and then also too is dragging both of them to go see the. Actually, I wouldn't even have to drag them; they would have gone. I was like, let's go see the Village People. At Riot Fest. And apparently I heard a lot of things. It was an amazing show. But I would have loved to have done that. But yeah, I missed out on the opportunity. But I definitely, the next time it comes to town, I definitely want to, get back to that. So, what's so funny though? I think that's like one of the very few like horror musical theaters. I mean, I know that there's a Heather's musical, which is kind of like, it's weird, but it's not really horror necessarily.
It's dark comedy.
Dark comedy. There's an American Psycho musical, which I really want to see.
Toxic Avenger. There's a Toxic Avenger musical.
Which is great, by the way. The music in that is amazing.
Of course there is. Because Lloyd Kaufman cannot help himself.
I know at some point there was a college somewhere that did a full-blown theater performance of the first Alien movie that got glaring reviews, I heard. This was 5+ years, actually at this point, maybe more, maybe almost 10 years ago at this point. But yeah, theater performance of the first Alien movie. Did a fantastic job. Cat included.
The cat included. I love that. So, hey, what the other question that we get into is obviously horror affects your life, but a lot of people are horror fans and they don't do anything creative with it. They don't really move on to be filmmakers, artists, and in this case, podcasters. So I'm very curious about how that transition came from and how the podcast started and how you got into podcasting and specifically talking about horror.
Yeah, well, very interesting story. I'll talk about horror all day, every day, kind of like musical theater with anyone. And most of the people in my life think I'm a psychopath. So, you know,
Love
I
you.
know. But, I went to my first horror convention in 2017 out here in Chicago. It was Flashback Weekend. And my husband wouldn't go with me but I didn't want to go alone, and I was afraid because I was shy and stuff. And around new people, new settings, at least. I went, and the second I walked in that room, it was magical. It was fucking magical. I didn't know anyone, and yet I felt like I was at home and I was among friends, and this was my tribe. And I've never felt that in my entire life in a large group of people, one or two, sure. But, so that was the beginning of getting into the horror community. And from that, I made some friends, and actually, that's actually where I met the first co-host, and then other friends and friends of friends. And the friendship started to build on that. And then social media that came in, and, we all kept in touch on the Facebook and the Instagram and stuff. So I knew I always wanted to do something with horror. I just always thought it would be on maybe the acting side of it, because I was a musical theater actress for a long, long time. But I've never really done films. But so I was thinking about that. But then I listened to a friend's podcast called It's a Horror Podcast, Wes and Kevin, and I loved it. And they weren't really good friends. We were more social media acquaintances. And I said, this is really, really good. And it's a fun concept. And you guys are fun to listen to. I wonder if I could do that with some of my friends. So I reached out to Wes and I said, so how are you recording this? Like the technicalities of it. Are you and Kevin in the same room like you fellas are? And Derek, no, I'm in like Nashville and he's in Ohio. I'm like, oh, well, it sounds really good. It sounds like you're in the same room. I said, so how does this work? So he kind of coached me along the ways on what to do. Then I reached out to Tori. I said, how do you feel about starting a horror podcast? And I sent them the link to It's a Horror Podcast. I sent her the link to It's a Horror Podcast. And she goes, that would be fun. Let's do it. And then we kind of talked about it for a few months. She picked the name because I love doll movies. So Tori actually picked the name, best thing ever. And we talked about what we want our format to be, probably for a good 4 or 5 months before we actually launched. I did secure the social medias before that ever happened, just to make sure, in the email and stuff. But we were planning before we did it. And then, we executed. And the first few episodes were rough, still getting our feet on the ground. And then producer Jesse, our producer, came into my life. We worked together at the office that I still work at now, and he volunteered to do some audio work because I don't know how to do technical stuff at all. And he's kind of magic, guys. Shout out to producer Jesse. He's amazing. Makes our podcast sound terrific. And it just grew and grew and grew from there. And then Days of the Dead came into my life. And literally right before Jamie joined, I think 2 weeks before Jamie came on board, Bill at Days of the Dead contacted me and asked me if I wanted to be the official podcast of the convention. And I said, well, what does that mean for my show? Do you have to have creative control now? Because this is my baby and I'm not going to give any of that up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, all that stays the same. You'll just come to the conventions and host the panels and stuff. I said, oh, great, count me in. Jamie came on board. I said, guess what, Jamie? We're in Days of the Dead now. And Jamie, I'll let you pick up from wherever you want to, since that's where your story begins with the podcast.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a writer. I'm a newspaper reporter. I'm a journalist. So I've been interviewing people and writing stories for a long time. However, I never kind of knew that I could blend my love of horror with that somehow. Just had no idea how I could mix those two together. So when the pandemic happened, I decided I wanted to start a horror inspired Instagram page. I used to have a blog on Blogspot back in the day called Girl on Gore. I decided I wanted to bring it back somehow. Did it with Instagram, started meeting the horror community through that, started writing a little bit, hooked up with Summer, and then it just kind of made sense where I'm like, oh, this is what I do as a journalist, but it's horror movies, which is way better than covering politics or school or anything else that I cover. And so, and then getting to do the panels, that's been amazing because it's been sharing the stage with some of my heroes. I mean, we just shared the stage. We've shared it with Bill Moseley a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, how amazing is that? He pulled us in closer for a hug, and it was like, oh my God, I'm freaking out right now. This is so awesome.
Yes.
But so yeah, getting to interview people on stage live like that, it speaks to like both of our love of performance.
Mhm.
And again, it's like mixing my skill sets as a journalist with the thing I love the most, which is scary movies. So it's like the perfect marriage of things in my life.
It really, really is. And, again, thanks to Instagram, Jamie came into my life. And I don't know, Jamie, if I ever told you this, but the phrase you uttered in that 50-second video that you posted that really pulled me in and made me go, I need to be this girl's best friend. And guys, you got to go back to her first video, okay, and watch it, because she's just as cute as a button. I mean, I was like, she's adorable. She has a great voice. I love her already. Great personality, I can tell. The phrase you said, Jamie, was, when you were saying all the things you love about horror, was a good eyeball torture scene, just like that, with a finger.
Good eyeball torture scene.
And I was like, I got to be this girl's best friend. I just do.
Eyeball torture bringing people together since 2020.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that. That's fantastic. And you mentioned that and I believe it was Bill from Days of the Dead had approached you. How did that whole situation start? Because I'm sure he had a litany of other candidates and other people that he was considering, I'm sure. Do you know how like that relationship started, and and how he went to you, and maybe a little bit more detail on that side of the story?
Well, it was very interesting, and I've told this before. I credit this relationship with Bill on being nice, because I'd never met Bill before until July of 2020. Seen him around, never met him. He had just acquired Days of the Dead pretty recently before the pandemic, and he decided to go ahead with Days of the Dead Indianapolis. A COVID con, as I called it. Everyone was wearing masks, everyone was distant, sanitizer on every 5 feet. It was crazy, but as people who do conventions and had our whole lives canceled in 2020, because I know a lot of people, I myself included, had a whole lineup of cons lined up, right, for 2020, not to work at, obviously, but just to go and enjoy. And he decided to go ahead with it. And it was a very small convention. A lot of the guests canceled, some still came. And it was great. And it's what we all needed, right? So I approached him when I saw him walking around the floor. Because how could I miss that like bleach blonde hair he has? And I said, is this your convention? He's like, he rolled his eyes and took a step back. He's like, it depends. What do you want? You could tell at the moment he was just over it. And I said, well, I just want to thank you, because this is what we all need right now. And you've provided, some normalcy to our lives over the past 4 months, right? And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then we talked, and that's kind of was it. And I never thought about it again until I went out to Vegas to help our girl Christy Adams out with her Nightmare Toys grand opening, right?
Ooh.
And because it was still COVID, August 2020, she needed help with crowd control and stuff like that, because they had a limit of how many people they could physically have in the store, so we needed to keep people outside and keep them entertained so they wouldn't leave. And so there was that. And so Bill at the time was living in Vegas. He and Christy had some collaborations at other toy stores. Big Bang Toys was one of them. And so I saw him again 2 weeks later, and he's like, nobody tested positive for COVID. And he's like, thank God, but no one popped positive. None of the celebrities and none guests, no patrons came forward about it either. So I'm assuming if they did, they kept it quiet, but none of the guests test positive for COVID in July of 2020 after a big event. And it proved that you can have a safe con during the pandemic if it's done properly, right? And, we talked a little bit at this event, and that was August. So about a month later, he calls me out of the blue, just calls me. No one calls me. I don't answer my phone.
Who calls anyone anymore?
Nobody calls me. And he's like, hey, if you have a second, I want to talk. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, kind of like, what's going on? I hardly know you. Right. Am I in trouble? Did I do something at the event? Like, what's going on? Getting called to the principal's office. We need to talk. Uh-oh. Something, I don't know what I did, but something happened. And he said that he was changing some things with the convention. Basically, he didn't say it like this, cleaning house, and doing some things differently. And he said, how would you like to be the official podcast of the Dolls of Horror? I listened to your episode and you guys talk very well. And this was a Tori episode. And I think that, you would be a good fit. And it was magic from there. I did ask him which episode he listened to. In my personal opinion, he listened to our worst episode to date probably to date now even. And I was thinking to myself, man, you're really easy to please.
Yeah.
But I don't know what he was talking about outside of me, because I have no idea if he had other candidates or anything. But I believe that I was on his radar because I was nice at that 2020 convention. And apparently he was getting hate. He was getting threats. He was getting social media threats. I saw some of them. I think there was a death threat out there at some point.
Jesus.
I mean, he was getting a lot of very, very unpleasant, harassing shit for doing it.
And that's very strange because in our experience, the horror community has been nothing but great. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
A big family,
horror
right?
Community is the best community. I almost want to send, I don't want to send shitty people to a horror convention for the horror convention fam, but I almost want people to see and experience a horror con and just see this is what family looks like. This is what nice people look like. It's the most supportive
nice
community
people look
ever.
like.
This is what nice people look like. That guy covered in blood, the Michael over there, the pinhead over here. Yeah, that's what nice people look like.
And we've talked about it. We're like, it's a safe place, even though there are lots of machetes around. It's a safe place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I consider that the safest thing in the world. You give me a sword, oh, I'll protect you.
It's just and you would think from the outside world that these are the most the people that are into the most deplorable things that you could ever imagine, massive fans of that, but the nicest well-adjusted people. I mean, we've had Damon on the podcast twice. I'm sure you're familiar with Damon, the creator of Slasher, and we've had great philosophical conversations about. And in my opinion, actually, I think the horror community is the nicest community. And also, from a creative standpoint, we're the last line of defense against a decaying culture.
Hell yeah.
I know that's a bold statement, but it's kind of the truth because we're the only ones that are innovating. Besides the porn community, they innovate all the time. You know what? And people always roll their eyes, but I'm like, name a technology that has come out in the last 100 years that the porn community has not done first. And that was a quote from our good friend Dennis Preston.
Zacks over there,
He really is desperate to turn this into the Midwest Horror Network.
No. I just remember we had a dear friend on the podcast, Dennis Preston, and he was arguing with a friend about the hardcore fandom of horror, communities. They're the most hardcore fans ever and the most dedicated fans. And his friend was like, no, I think it's the porn community. The porn community is even more crazy than the horror community.
Also I would argue not crazy necessarily, could be crazy, but soap opera fans are pretty rabid too.
Really?
Daytime soap opera fans.
That kind of just makes sense. Because usually the script quality of a lot of horror movies are the same script quality as the soap opera. to be honest, I've been trying to get Patrika Darbo out to a con, man. I'm like, man, we need to get you on with Papa Kane and Kevin. So yeah, I've been trying to get her out to a horror convention because she's mainly does soap opera conventions, and my selling point for her is you'll have the soap opera fans coming and the horror fans coming. It'll be like a whole new audience. And they'll look at each other like Days of Our Lives. Friday the 13th. Yep, got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you
Yep.
go. Be a nice little get together. So I have just one last question. The what if because obviously we've been in doing podcasts for a very long time, and we've switched formats. We've gone from audio to video to bad video, then back to audio, and then back to a switcher, which the switcher's a godsend. We have the little camera adjuster guy that makes Zach not want to murder himself. Because Zach's our post guy. And by the way, I'm the executive producer and then the acting side of things, so I can relate to talking about musical theater and acting and all that great stuff. But
He's also the annoying side of things.
yes, I am. But I'm also do all the shit that he don't want to do, like scheduling and talking to people, and dealing with calendars. So what have been some of the biggest surprises that you've had? Or things that you thought would be easy, but turn out to not be, or things that you thought would be hard, but then turn out to be easy when it comes to running your podcast. I'm always interested to hear about those.
I'll tell you what, producer Jesse makes it very easy to get the podcasts a quality show out, a quality sounding show out. I attribute that all to him because I don't know about Jamie, but I don't know how to do any of that stuff at all.
I don't know much of that stuff either.
Yeah, if we had to do that on our own, the show would not sound as good as it does. It would not be what it is today, and that's all because of him. So if he wasn't around, that would be the most challenging thing by far. I'm telling you that right now. But he's magic. We tell him all the time. So we owe it all to producer Jesse for sure. Jamie.
I will say that, we have, our show has evolved over time, of course, since I've been on. So one of the things we started doing is we have these, little breaks, audio breaks between our different segments, because we have sections that we go over, like best fashion, best hair, favorite kill. So
Epic Line's my favorite.
Epic Line, yeah. So prop we want to own. So for every section we have a cool little audio intro to it.
Little jingle,
before we do it in post, and now we do it live.
Yeah.
And that's been really fun because sometimes producer Jesse throws in some fun ones for us and surprises us. So that's been one of my favorite evolutions that we've had while I've been on the show as far as production.
I agree. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's just the show's grown so much. It's little things. You don't think about it until you listen to an older episode. And it's like, wow, this is so different. And that's also why we've started doing, especially for episodes that Tori was on, we've been recycling some of those movies and doing them again. We did Krampus twice because we did it our first year when it was a month old, so it was a little rough, and then we did it I think 2 years ago and it was a much better episode. And we did Black Christmas twice, both 2006 and 1974. Jamie, am I right? 74.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's something that we've been doing as the show has grown is we've been doing some of the movies that we did early on again, like a second chance. Not only does Jamie get to experience them again or with us for the first time, but it's going to be a more polished episode. And so it's basically the episode that I really wanted it to be to begin with, but we weren't there yet.
Yeah, and we added on some categories too over time. I mean, I love taglines. I'm a writer again, so I'm obsessed with horror movie taglines. I write them in my head all the time, just in life. When I see something, I'm like, oh, somebody said the words "spud gun" to me, and I'm like, ooh, revenge is a dish best served mashed. Oh my God, that would be a great movie.
We're gonna have to do a fun improv exercise one time, maybe when I come on and be I'm just gonna shout out random horror movies and you got to come up with a tagline on the spot. I would love that.
It's my favorite thing. To me, it's the perfect example of copywriting. This is me nerding out, but because you got to sell somebody on this horror movie in just a sentence or a few words. But yeah, so we now have a tagline section where we talk about taglines every movie. So we've added some really fun categories over time. I mean, listeners have suggested things to us that we've added in. So I'm just always excited to see the ways that we evolve and the new stuff that we want to try.
Yeah,
absolutely.
some of the topics that did get added on months or even a year later, aside from the taglines, that's a really, really recent one that came about within the last few months.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have an occasional font talk because Jamie loves her some good font. That's not every episode. It's only when we see maybe a font like that Gremlins font we might want to talk about. Right. In the beginning, we did not have best hair, but we started talking about hair so much with the great 80s hair. Hello. That we had to throw in the best hair category. That came along after we did the 1995 version of Piranha. So, because we kept talking about the hair. Also, I was picking hair for a lot of my fashion moments. So we're like, maybe this
needs to be its own category.
This should just be its own thing. And that not every movie has good hair. Let's just say that. Some of it's pretty unremarkable. So sometimes they're like, ooh, I was driving the struggle bus on the hair.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So so I know we wrap up every we wrap up every podcast with a question of the podcast, which I just make up halfway through the podcast. I never plan them, but I think that's part of the fun. And something fun I don't think we've ever done actually, nothing even similar, was what is your favorite, and you can pick your top two. What is your favorite horror movie quote? Yeah, that was a good one. We do.
It's like asking someone what they want for Christmas
or what they want for dinner.
Okay.
So in tradition, we do allow the guests to go first, but they do have the option to pass if they so choose. Go ahead, and Zach's thinking about it too. So so by all means, go ahead and kick it away if you got it.
Okay, so right off the top of my head, I just watched Krampus again for my holiday viewing because I go through all these Christmas movies, and Aunt Dorothy is my spirit animal. Okay, she says two things, maybe three or four. Actually, she says about 10 things in there that I really, really love. But one thing that I've always related to and what made me love her was I didn't even like kids when I was one. Okay. And also if I can also include another Aunt Dorothy without accounting for my two is where's the nog? I need to get married.
I'm gonna say that from now on. And go ahead, please continue. I love these.
Well, that was just like first off the top of my head, because that actress was just brilliant. So that was for sure it. I'm looking at your Gremlins poster. This is not one of my favorite lines at all, but whenever someone says Gremlins, I think should have got a Zenith. That's not a favorite line, but it's something that I always think of when someone says Gremlins. So
I love it.
This one's so hard, but like the first thing that came to mind, so American Werewolf in London is a very, very special movie to me. First of all, it was my first R-rated movie I ever saw as a kid, and I loved it. David is my ultimate horror hunk. It's the best werewolf transformation ever. Everything about that movie is absolutely perfect. So right off the top of my head, I will not be threatened by a walking meatloaf.
And then you get one more.
Oh gosh, I guess since Suspiria is my favorite movie, like what do you know about witches? That line with Susie. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Zach. You got one? You got one?
I got one more.
All right.
Okay. If you, I obviously most of you all know this movie, but I love this movie, and so it's a line that goes in through my head a lot for random reasons. Meet me at the waterfront after the social. What's it from, guys?
Oh, damn. Zach, help me out.
I don't know.
Huh.
Fuck.
Sleepaway Camp.
I've only ever seen it once.
Okay.
That's true. Yeah.
No, when it comes to like camp movies or forest movies, Friday the 13th for me.
Yeah, for sure.
I've seen each one of those movies more times than I can count.
All right, Zach.
Oh yeah, of course.
Do you have a favorite one?
7.
Yeah.
7 then 10.
He can do the whole order. So Zach, what about you?
All right, so my first one's going to be from a video game. It's actually from Doom. In the native language of their people, it's called Kar and Tuk, and it just stands for rip and tear. Because you spend all that entire game just murdering and ripping and tearing apart demons, and I fucking love it. And, like, usually the boss music is for the people you're fighting or killing. No, you're the boss in that game. You're the badass just slaying things, and it's just a crowd of metalheads just chanting that, rip and tear! Rip and tear! I fucking love it. And then my next one is from the first Hellraiser movie, No Tears Please, It's a Waste of Good Suffering.
Yeah.
Fucking love that quote.
That's a
Beautiful,
quote.
sadistic, elegant, and badass.
What sites we have to show you? I'm gonna cheat.
Come to daddy.
That's a good one. and that's like that's it. Clive, that's not a line. That's what you say on a Saturday night.
Oh,
so I'm gonna cheat because it's my thing. I have three. And I'm doing them in order, but I'm gonna say the line. And I'm gonna see how people can guess them. I've come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum.
Not a horror movie.
Yes, it is.
I know the line, but
I know I do too, and I'm like, what is it?
It's They Live.
Oh yeah.
They Live, and then
I think I've heard the line more than I've seen the movie.
most people have. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
There you
Can I
go.
piggyback off of that?
Yes.
It's part of our intro every episode. Watch a few movies, take a few notes. It was fun.
Yeah, that's another really good one from that. That would be Scream.
Because that's basically our entire, our process for the episodes.
And then my ultimate favorite horror movie line of all time, and Zach will laugh when I say it. What were they? Psychos? Psychos do not explode when sunlight hits them. I don't give a fuck how crazy they are.
From dusk till dawn.
Absolutely my favorite vampire movie of all time. Almost got beat by Near Dark, almost, when I saw Near Dark. But I'm like, nah, From Dusk Till Dawn will always be my favorite vampire movie of all time. And it is still one of the best lines, along with if you fucking scream, I have 6 little friends that can run a lot faster than you. It's such a good line. Both great lines by George Clooney, of all people, to give a line in a horror movie. But hey.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much. You guys were fantastic. We will have you back again anytime. You're more than welcome. And actually, we would love to come on yours as well anytime.
Yes.
Anytime
we were literally texting about that
We
right
were
now.
texting about that. I said, let's get him on our show.
we would absolutely love to do that. I know, Zach, I'm sure, especially if you pick a couple of really good movies that we have a lot to talk about,
Yeah.
we will definitely do it. Zach, go ahead.
I could do horror movies or horror video games. I am very fluent in both.
Yep, and I have a elementary education in horror video games, just enough to be dangerous. But this is your opportunity to look directly. This is your opportunity to look directly into camera and tell the good people where they can find all of your amazing stuff and your amazing podcasts. Go ahead and take it away.
Well, Jamie created a wonderful website for us, thedollsofhorror.com. So you can find all things dolls there. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at the Dolls of Horror, Twitter at just Dolls of Horror, because the was taken. Lame. Honestly, the Twitter is very, very neglected. So go to Instagram. And we have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Dolls of Horror, where we post all of our panel videos. If you're like, oh darn, I missed that panel and I wanted to see the John Kassir panel, it's on YouTube, so you didn't have to lose out on that. And I mean, that's kind of it. Did I leave anything out, Jamie?
No, but if you want to follow us individually too, you can find our Instagram handles on the Dolls of Horror page. My Instagram is Girl on Gore. I also have a YouTube page, so check me out too if you like horror fashion and fun little horror videos.
And your Facebook page, your like page, Girl on Gore. She has her own little Girl on Gore empire over there. So definitely check out Jamie's Girl on Gore, because she puts out some real fun videos.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. And then we're going to close out this podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the Nightmares podcast. You can find us where all podcasts are available: Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, all that great stuff. And if you are watching this on YouTube, if you could be so awesome to stab that like button, smash that subscribe, and click that little dingy bell to be notified every time we drop amazing content right here on YouTube and any other place on the Nightmares podcast. And of course, you can find us on all of our social medias. You can find us on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Slasher, the application for all thing horror. And you can find the Dolls of Horror on Slasher by their name as well. Thank you so much for checking out this, and then we will see you next time on the Nightmares podcast. Bye, guys.